Good day to all of you. This is AC and I welcome you to this third lecture in this video series where we are discussing the topic of rhetoric in general and the various figures of speech that you have in your truncated syllabus in particular. In the previous lectures, we have tried to gather some basic ideas regarding rhetoric, which, as we have already discussed, is the art and science of persuasive speaking. We have tried to identify its historical roots, its social, political, and cultural usage, and also how rhetoric has evolved over thousands of years. But as I have already pointed out before, we do not have the entire field of rhetoric prescribed in our syllabus. What we have in our syllabus is known as figurative language, and specifically we have a select few figures of speech included in our syllabus. There are a large number of figures of speech, which are devices or tools which are used to intensify, clarify, and embellish human speech and writing. In the previous lecture, I have also discussed how we can categorize these figures of speech into a handful of different categories. You only have a select few figures of speech prescribed in your truncated syllabus. You can consult the previous lecture or your syllabus to know about them if you have not already done so. Today we will start discussing the first figure of speech which we have in our syllabus, a figure of speech which falls under the category of figures based on analogy, agreement, or similarity. But before we start discussing the specific figure of speech, let us ponder a bit on the category itself, the category of figures based on analogy, agreement, or similarity. What is an analogy? An analogy is when we draw a comparison between two things in order to show some kind of similarity between them. Then what is an agreement? An agreement is when two different ideas or subjects meet somewhere on a common ground. So it should be pretty obvious that the figures which are included under this category are formed when a comparison is made between two things or ideas or thoughts or subjects in order to express some kind of similarity that exists between them. But then you might question that whether any kind of comparison between two things which results in discovery of some similarity will result in the formation of a figure based on similarity. And the answer would be no, because there are very explicit differences between a figurative comparison and a literal comparison. Let us try to understand how that works. Let us suppose we are comparing two rulers, two emperors, like for say Alexander the Great and Julius Caesar. Now both of them are emperors. The similarity between them should be very obvious to anyone who knows about them, right? So the comparison between them would be a very literal comparison. Again, suppose someone says that a deer is like a gazelle or a gazelle is like an antelope. Now all of these animals are types of different type varieties of ruminants, and the similarity between them is again very obvious, and this also forms a very literal comparison. The similarity between them is very literal and obvious, and as a result these comparisons will not be considered a figurative comparison. But then if someone states that Birbal was a jewel in Akbar's court, a jewel of Akbar's court, then we have an example of figurative comparison. Birbal was a human being, right? And not a literal jewel. So this is not a case of literal comparison, but a figurative comparison, because Birbal was considered a jewel because of the value that was perceived in his actions, in his wit. And so these kind of comparisons, where the similarity between the two things or subjects or ideas are not merely literal, these kind of comparisons form the basis for the creation of figures based on similarity. Now, the first figure of speech that we have in our syllabus is called simile. This term simile is derived from a Latin word similis, and similis means like or similar. So it is very obvious that in case of simile, we have two ideas or thoughts, two entities which have some kind of existing similarity between them, and the figure is formed by using that similarity. J. A. Cudden defines simile by stating that it is a figure of speech in which one thing is likened to another in such a way as to clarify and enhance an image. So simile is an expression of likeness or similarity between two different things. And when you learn about metaphor, you will see that there is a considerable amount of similarity between simile and metaphor, yet they are very different in some significant manner. Perhaps the most distinct and recognizable characteristic of simile, which differentiates it from a metaphor, is that the comparison which is made in case of a simile is a very explicit comparison. So the comparison is made with great clarity in a very straightforward manner. This clarity in case of simile is achieved by using words such as like or as when making the comparison. So there are a few different points that you will need to keep in mind to understand what is a simile. The first thing is that the things which will be compared must be different in kind. They cannot literally belong to the same area, the same category. There must be some form of difference between the things or the ideas or the entities that are being compared. Now, secondly, though the two entities are fundamentally different, there should be some form of similarity existing between them. It is this similarity which will allow us to form the figure of similarity. Now, of course, this similarity between these two entities will not be literal, and it might also not be very obvious. But there needs to be some kind of underlying similarity on the basis of which comparison will be made. And finally, this point of similarity should be expressed very clearly. It must be expressed very clearly through the use of words like as, so, like, such, similarly, these kind of words. So the similarity between the two entities would be very clearly stated, very easy to understand. It will not be stated in a roundabout way. It will be very straightforward. So let us now take a look at a few examples of simile in order to understand it better. Perhaps one of the most popular examples of simile that you will find in many places, in many books, comes from a poem titled A Red Red Rose by Robert Burns. And the line is, "Oh, my love's like a red red rose." So here the narrator is comparing love with a red rose, right? So a comparison is being made, and this comparison is between two very different things. A red rose is a physical object, whereas love is an abstract idea, right? You can touch or smell a rose, you can see it, but you cannot experience love in such a manner. You cannot touch a love. You know what it is, but you cannot see it or you cannot smell it. It's an abstract concept. So where is the comparison here? It can be argued that the comparison is made on the basis of beauty, because rose is considered to be a very beautiful flower and love is also considered to be a very beautiful emotion, right? So this is a very basic example of simile, how simile works. Now let us take up another very popular example of simile from Wordsworth, where the poet says, I wandered lonely as a cloud. You can notice in these examples that the point of comparison is being very clearly stated through the use of words such as like or as, right? So in this example, the poet is comparing himself, the narratorial voice, to a drifting cloud, a floating cloud. Again, two very different things. One is a human consciousness, a human mind, and another is a cloud, an atmospheric entity, right? But then where is the comparison being made? The comparison is being made on the on the dimension of solitude or loneliness. The narrator is wandering around in a manner which is similar to the way a cloud wanders in the sky. Let us take a look at another example, this time from Coleridge's The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. And the line reads, her locks were yellow as gold. So a woman's lock of hair is being compared to a metal, gold, two very dissimilar things. But the comparison is made on the basis of similarity. Similarity of what? Similarity of color, appearance. A gold is yellow and so are the locks of hair. So one area that is probably very obvious by now is that the point of comparison in a simile should never be too commonplace, too obvious. It must not be a very literal similarity. Yet at the same time, it should not swing to the opposite extreme, as the figure would lose its effectiveness or usefulness if the comparison between the two entities is very obscure, is very hard to understand. So a balance between these two extremities should be observed in similes. So we'll continue our discussion of similes in the next class, where we will read and discuss not just a few isolated lines as we have done in this class, but we will be reading portions of some poems and discussing how simile works in those poems, how the use of this rhetorical figure enhances the content of the poem, and we will also discuss different usages of simile.